We start by making a magic ring. Well, there is nothing magic about it really. We simply make a loop so that the working yarn is on top of the yarn tail, like this. Then we take one of the needles in our right hand and insert that needle from front to back into the loop, like this. Then pick the yarn from left to right and pull it through the loop, like this. So this is our first stitch. Now make a yarn over and then repeat these steps. So we go into the loop, pick the yarn, pull it through, then make a yarn over, and again into the loop, pick the yarn, pull it through, make a yarn over, and you keep doing that until you get the number of stitches that you need for your project. I'm gonna start with 8 stitches, so I'm gonna do it one more time. Pick the stitch from the loop and then make a yarn over. If the number of stitches is even, we'll finish with the yarn over. So it is very important that we make sure that yarn over stays there and does not unravel as we move to the next step. And the next step would be to arrange stitches for working in the round. And depending on the tools you plan to use, you will either divide stitches evenly between 2 circular needles or 4 double-pointed needles, or you can simply use the magic loop technique, as I'm gonna do, and move the stitches to the center of the cable and then pull the cable from between the stitches, dividing them into 2 equal groups. And see, all this time I make sure the yarn over stays there. So I'm gonna bring this group to the needle and turn the work. Another thing that we need to pay attention to is the loop and the tail. We don't want it to get into the work. We want them to stay separately. So we're gonna push them to the back of the work and bring the working yarn to the front, just like this. So now I'm ready to start working on the first round. And this first round is also the round that is part of the cast on. Why we need it? We need it for several reasons. First, because these stitches are not really stitches, they're just wraps, right? So we have to give them some body so they are more independent and secured. Especially this last stitch that is a yarn over, that is really loose and flimsy. So we have to work it somehow to make it a really legitimate stitch. Another thing is, because these are just yarn overs, we know that if we knit them as usual, then they would end up creating a holes. That's what yarn overs do, right? So to prevent that, we're gonna work everything, every stitch on the needle, we're gonna work it through the back loop, just like this. Insert the tip of the right needle from right to left into the stitch and knit it. And then we do the same thing with the next stitch and the next stitch and the stitch after that. And then rearrange the stitches again. And continue working the remaining stitches until we get to the end of the round. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we get to the fun part. Now we have to close this hole, this ugly, huge hole that we have. We don't need it in the project, right? The whole idea was to make it so that there is no hole. So we're gonna close the hole easily by pulling the tail. Just pull the tail really hard, but make sure you don't break the yarn, of course. So pull the tail to close this hole. And as soon as you do that, you will probably notice that those stitches that were knitted through the back loop, basically twisted, they form a lovely clover-like design over here. It's like 4 petals sitting right at the center of the fabric. And now we are ready to continue working on the project, following the instructions in the pattern. For example, I followed the instructions for the shaping of the Brigitte beret, and I've got this little swatch, and you can see clearly this 4-petal motif right here at the center of the work, and of course no hole. You can use this type of cast on to make circles, center out squares, or any other shapes you like, and turn them into beautiful blankets, shawls, or top-down hats. To read this tutorial as a set of step-by-step photo instructions, go to 10roseaday.com/magic-ring-cast-on. To download it as a PDF, join the club at 10roseaday.com/club. Thank you for watching this video and have a wonderful week. I'll see you in the next tutorial.